Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you very much. And I welcome all the participants who have joined us for this course. So, like, we'll be going along for this entire week. And I hope and I think I got to know that there are people who have joined us in YouTube as well because of the limitation in the participation in Zoom. So, I hope that tomorrow maybe we'd be able to join earlier than today's people so that like you're also part of the Zoom meeting as well, right? Moving on, so like you have been informed about the course contents. I think if I'm not wrong, there has been a lot many publicities about this course, right? So what expectations you people are having from this course, I don't know, but to be very frank, this course will just be an eye opener. Let's say it will be just a basic revision, or let's say it will be just a brush up on the various topics in the oil and gas industry that is in practice so far. And maybe most of the things we already know, or let's say things which we did come across many days back, or let's say many times ago, but let's say it will be an brush up for us, right? So that it's a refresh again in our memories. So that's what the course is going to offer. So if someone is expecting some, in a way, let's say some advanced approaches, or let's say some advanced exposure, so in a way that will be a disappointment for them. And like I said at the very beginning, so it will be just a basic course. Right. And in the meantime, because of the limitation in the time and the schedule, so what we have planned is there will be a query list, there will be a query sheet which will be circulated among the participants, I think regularly in the chat box. So if you're having questions, so what we can do is you can put up the questions, provided you put up your contact details and everything so that we can get in touch with you, right? And then accordingly, what we'll try to do is we'll try to resolve your queries as soon as possible. Yes. So this is what will be going ahead, because we have a lot many participants. We have people who have joined us in YouTube as well. So that amounts to a lot many people, right? So we'll try to address each and everyone's queries, right? Provided it's documented in the sheet. Yes. So, as you all know, what the course content would be, yes. So, like mostly when you're talking about the oil and gas industry, what we have is we have a few of the major branches, or let's say a few of the major operations that are going on. Yes. So, starting from the exploration part, then we have in the exploration part we have the geosciences disciplines. Then we have the drilling operations as well. Yes. So after drilling, what happens is we shift to the production phase, and after production phase, we have the management phase in a way, whereby we have the principles, or let's say the disciplines of reservoir engineering, which is playing a crucial role. Yes, because we need to maintain the field, we need to maintain the oil and gas assets for as long as the company is able to do so. Because more and more oil and gas you're able to pump out, or let's say you're able to produce from the subsurface towards the surface, the more you'd be able, or let's say the more the company would be able to sell it in the market and then it in revenue. So this is what the story is. Apart from that, we also have other topics. We have other branches. Let's say safety engineering is, or let's say the health HEC department is one major aspect of the oil and gas industry. So we are not excluding it. Yes, although it might not be mentioned in this course outline, or let's say in the agenda, but things will be covered as we progress, or as we move ahead with the discussions. Apart from HSE, we have other things to discuss. We have other disciplines as well. Let's say we have the managerial aspects of the oil and gas industry. We also have the geopolitical backgrounds that need to be understood. Also, nowadays, we need to also discuss about the impacts that are happening in the environment. Yes, or let's say the repercussions due to the operations of the oil and gas industry, or let's say the hydrocarbon industry, because of which lot many limitations, lot many laws have come up, lot many regulations have come up, which is trying to restrict, or let's say which is trying to keep the oil and gas industry, or let's say the energy and the utilities industry under a major watch. So starting with day one, so what we'll do is we'll just try to understand what are the different disciplines, what are the different options that the oil and gas industry has to offer. Yes, but then again, when I'm talking about the options, or let's say when you're talking about the career aspects, so I'll be discussing mostly about the departments which are closely related with the oil and gas aspects. Yes, so like if you see into an industry, so a lot many disciplines are associated. Yes, so let's say electrical engineering is associated, or let's say the electronics and telecommunications department is associated. Yes, even the law people are associated. So we are not covering those aspects, rather we are covering those technical aspects, we are covering those associated aspects which are having a direct impact on the operations in the oil and gas fields. Yes, so that starts from what? That can start from the geosciences background. We have geology, we have the geophysics, right? Then what we'll have is we'll be having the drilling engineering people or the drilling group who are the major shareholders in the oil and gas industry, especially in the exploration part, after which we move on to the production phase. So that's why you might have come across this term ENP, that is exploration production, which is uh, synonymously used with the upstream sector. Yes, so instead of upstream sector, we also use it as exploration and production sector. So whereby which indicates the exploration of the oil and gas fields, the exploration of the hydrocarbon targets, or let's say the blocks, or let's say the different accumulations of the subsurface fluids, right? Then coming across we have other aspects, we have other disciplines, like we have the reservoir engineering discipline. Yes, so the reservoir engineers are in a way the managers, or let's say the uh, what to say, they are the strategists in a way. Yes, who is responsible for devising plans, who is responsible for devising strategies for how long the field would be able to give you the results. When you're talking about results, so that means the production of oil and gas. Yes, so because we know that means as time progresses, the production from the oil and gas fields, or let's say from the oil and gas wells, it starts to decline. Yes, so that is where the reservoir engineering practices plays a vital role, because their role is to prolong the activities of recovery, or let's say prolong the production of hydrocarbon, because for longer the hydrocarbon production is going on, more would be the revenues that would be coming to this company. Yes, so apart from that, we have the operating services, we have the other services which are equally responsible, which are which are equally associated with the major branches. Like we have the well test team, we have the logging team. Yes, or we have the chemicals team. That means the use of chemicals is very much vast and varied in the oil and gas industry. So no one is excluded. Yes, no one is lesser important, all are equally important, and because of which the oil and gas industry, it happens to be a multidisciplinary team. Yes, or we can call it as an MDT team. Yes, so that's why we are having multidisciplinary expectations, because if one of the group, or let's say if one of the team members is performing well and the other is not, then definitely the end result would not be the one which you might have been expecting. Yes, so let's say just consider the example of the football team. Yes, so if suppose a team is relying only on one player, maybe, so maybe the end result of that game might not be what the team might have expected. Yes, so each and every one, that means each and every 11 players has to contribute equally towards the team, and only then they would be able to see some fruitful results. The same goes in the oil and gas industry also. Yes, so if suppose the exploration has been done smoothly, or let's say there has been a huge discovery of oil and gas. Yes, so if suppose the drilling industry means the drilling team, if they're not able to drill wells in the appropriate locations, they won't be able to tap the resources, right? Or let's say if the geosciences and the drilling section has done their part well, if suppose the production team is not able to maintain the pressure, it's not able to maintain the flow rate, then definitely there would be repercussions. Yes, so maybe we are aiming at a 15 years of production period, but because of the mismatch, or let's say because of the irresponsible attitudes, or let's say the approaches of the production team, this might also come down to 10 years of production. So definitely you can see that there's a loss of 5 years of production, and this 5 years of production will definitely it will create a massive impact, be it in terms of the fluid production or in terms of the finances, because at the end it's a commodity market. Yes, so to be very frank, we should also understand it in a much more simpler form. Yes. So the reason why Saudi Arabia, or let's say the Middle Eastern countries, or let's say the MENA region, all right. So there's a reason why these countries are very much rich. Yes. Maybe the economic conditions might not be that much good as, let's say, many of the countries are. But then again, when it comes to oil, they are very much rich. Yes. In fact, the entire world relies on few of the countries. Yes. So that's the reason. So they are having resources, and since they are having the resources, they are having a huge pool of hydrocarbons, so they are able to run the show, they are able to run the market, right? So when it comes to understanding of the oil and gas industry, so I believe that there might be people who are from some non-oil and gas backgrounds as well. Yes. So definitely we should pay attention to their presence as well, to their needs as well. So that's why we should also understand how these hydrocarbons have formed. Yes. So many of us might know very well. Yes. So the story, or let's say the fairy tale, how the oil and gas have formed. Yes. So the oil and gas, if you have to talk about its origins, so the origins, it dates back to many years back. Yes. In fact, it dates back to very tiny creatures which you call it as planktons. So these planktons, these are some microscopic organisms, or let's say these are some microscopic plants and animals that mostly they live in the oceans, that mostly they live in the seas. Even now they're existing as well, right? So these planktons, what happened is, because all living organisms, or let's say every living being has their life. Yes, so they have a lifespan. So when their lifespan starts to deteriorate, then what happens is they tend to age out, and then they start to die, they start to expire. So when this planktons, or let's say when these organisms they start aging out, then what happens is they start settling down at the seabeds, or let's say at the ocean floor. Yes. So a lot many planktonic organisms settling down together with the sedimentary beds. So what we have is, we have the various sedimentary beds. So that occurs from the sedimentation processes, or let's say the erosion processes, whereby you might be having some bigger rocks. So what happens is they mix up with the sedimentary layers, and what happens is, with the passage of time, then with the application of pressure and temperature, then what happens is they start undergoing conversion processes. Yes. So because of the application of pressure, temperature, and time, then what happens is, all these accumulations of dead plants and animals, or this planktonic organisms, what happens is they transform themselves into hydrocarbons at a later stage, however. Yes. So that's why we need to have three components which are very much necessary. One is the pressure that we're talking about, the other one being the temperature, and then most importantly, time. Yes. Because pressure and temperature can be introduced, it can be provided in an artificial mechanisms. Yes, it can be provided in an artificial environment. But when it comes to time, so that is something no one can provide. Yes. So we might have lot many labs coming up. Yes. And then again, there are success as well. But then again, so we won't be able to produce on a larger scale, right? Apart from this planktonic organisms, we also have the other living organisms that are surviving, that survived many years back, many centuries back. Yes. So the dinosaurs, which we can see in the movies like Jurassic Park. Yes. So even the extinction of those organisms as well, or let's say even the deaths of those plants and animals that might have existed back then. So even their deaths have contributed towards the formation, yes, towards the accumulation and subsequently the formation of oil and gas, right? So this is a very simple process if you just look it in a simpler way. But then again, as you go deeper, or let's say as you start investigating what happened actually, so a lot many possibilities, lot many exploring opportunities comes up, right? But then again, like I said, that since it's a very simpler course that we're trying to provide you people, so we are trying to keep the things very much simpler, so that it serves as a benchmark for you all to become curious, and later on, maybe when you are when you're free enough, when you are having the what to say, the zeal enough, or let's say the urge enough, then you can definitely refer to some materials. But then again, if suppose you're in need of some comprehensive materials, then feel free to get in touch with team PEA. So definitely they will be able to help you out with certain relevant materials, which might save some time as well and some efforts. because if you end up reading some books, so the books might be huge volumes of pages, yes, but if suppose a few of them, or let's say if suppose someone is having some comprehensive materials, so that will definitely save your efforts, yes. So the much more simplistic way you are able to understand these things, or let's say the scheme of things that has been happening, the much more easier it is for a person to perceive that what might have happened, yes. Because at the end you have to visualize lot many things that might have taken place, which have given rise to the oil and gas industry, yes. So there is science involved, even there is history involved, then even there is a lot many things that are involved, including politics as well, yes. So one has to understand, one has to get a hold of lot many things in order to understand what the oil and gas industry is, or let's say what the oil and gas industry was, right? So today if you just look at it, yes, but by the way, this image, or let's say the statistics which you see, so this is not updated yet, but then again, I think we can all agree to this fact that yet today, till today, the non-renewable sources of energy, yes, especially petroleum, that means especially crude oil, so like the petroleum fluids, or let's say natural gas and coal, so all together they are contributing, or they are providing a massive uh, contribution towards the energy needs of the entire earth, yes. So we have the developed nations, we have the developing nations, and then again we have the third world nations, yes. Maybe the developed nations have come across a long way, yes, from the industrial revolution, so maybe now they have reached the threshold, so maybe they might have started to uh, transform themselves, or let's say shift themselves from the use of non-renewable sources towards renewable sources, yes. So that's why maybe nowadays you might have seen that a lot many EV companies have come up, yes, electric vehicles have come up, or let's say a lot many other approaches of energy modes have come up, yes. But then again, when you're talking about the developing nations, when you're talking about the underdeveloped nations, or let's say the third world countries, so definitely they won't be able to sustain, they won't be able to survive on the solar energy sources, on the nuclear energy, or let's say or any other renewable sources, or any other green energy source, yes. Because since in a way they are in the nascent stages of implementation in the society, so the cost of EVs are very much high, so maybe you might have means watched it on your own, yes. So if you're looking for a common example, that is we have Tesla, right? uh, Elon Musk, right? So if you look at the price of the Tesla vehicles, yes, so definitely it would be costing you a huge sum of money, yes, as compared to a normal vehicle which is running on gasoline, which is running on diesel fuel. So that will definitely cost you less. So if suppose you are if you are having a good amount of money with you, or let's say if you are in some developed nations whereby there might be certain regulations as well, yes, with the use, or let's say with the purchase of vehicles which are being run by petroleum fuels, yes. So maybe in such cases people will slowly adapt, or let's say they will slowly shift their attention towards electric vehicles. And this practice is means it's taking a very major upliftment we have seen, yes, in many countries, right? Because not only this thing, we also have lot many organizations, we have lot many think tanks nowadays who have emphasized on this fact, that means it's high time that people, or let's say the countries as a whole, they start, or let's say they start thinking, or they, let's say they seriously they should consider, means shifting towards such a technology, or let's say shifting towards such an energy source which will try to bring down the emissions, yes. Because when we are using the oil and gas resources, we are also dealing with a huge amount of emissions as well, right? But then again, the dependence will still go on, yes. So we have a long way to go till maybe we would be able to achieve the complete dependence on some non-petroleum fuels, yes. So if you can see in the slide, so you have lot many nations which are colored in various shades. You can see nations or areas which are colored in maroon color, if I'm not wrong. Then a few parts are in blue, few of them are in green. Then there's pink, which is the US that is being represented along with Alaska. Then this green area is the Canadian provinces. Then you have the North Sea countries, like you have Norway, then you have the United Kingdom. Then you have the OPEC nations. Yes, that is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, right? So what you have is you have Venezuela, which is one of the major producers of oil and gas, right? Then you have Algeria, you have Libya, then you have Nigeria in the African continent, then you have the Middle Eastern countries, then also you have nations from Asia as well. You have the Southeast Asian nations as well, so which are having oil and gas reserves. So, but then again, the volumes, or let's say the reserves, might vary, the numbers might vary. Yes, but then again, when you're talking about the global oil and gas trade, so we mostly focus, or let's say the attention is mostly in the Middle Eastern part. Yes, then there is some focus in the North Sea part. Then there is focus in the South American part as well, but this is staying as a disturbed area because of lot many geopolitical differences as well. Yes, because of which mostly countries have diverted their attention towards the Middle Eastern countries. Yes, and then again partly in the North African countries as well. So whereby we have Algeria, you have Libya as well, right? So these countries are the major producers, and hence most of the nations, especially those countries which are racing against time to achieve the the goals, yes, the development goals as a whole. So those countries would be the major consumers of oil and gas. Yes, so even though on one hand we are shouting, or we are emphasizing on the fact that means the use of hydrocarbons must be reduced. Yes, the emissions must be brought down. Yes, so we have lot many targets. I think many of you might have known, many of you might have come across. Yes, because recently we had this the conference of parties, or let's say the COP26, that was held in the UK, right? So a lot many things were discussed, lot many oaths were taken, lot many pledges were taken, and then again lot many turn of events did happen back then. So if you see this nations now, so depending upon the color shade, so you can see that the darker the shade is, the more reserves these nations are having. Yes, so out of which the prominent areas, like I said, so it would be the Middle Eastern part, so whereby you have Saudi Arabia, then you have Iran as well, then you have Iraq as well, right? Then you have other smaller Middle Eastern region, I mean the countries as well. Yes, so you have Bahrain, you have Oman, you have the UAE as well. And apart from that, you have the Canadian provinces, and then you have Venezuela. Then again, Russia is always there, right? So, but in terms of natural gas, Russia has been the forefront runner in this, right? So you can see for yourself now. So which country is having like what I mean, how much of reserves? But then again, so these values might change depending upon the audits that has been made, or let's say depending upon the estimations which might have been updated in the in the days, right? But then again, as you can see that Venezuela is leading the race with its production, followed by Saudi Arabia, then Iraq is there, Iran is there, Kuwait is there, UAE is there. So as you can see now, so lot many lot many Middle Eastern countries are there, yes, who are having a good amount of reserves still left in their subsurfaces, right, in their oil and gas field. So that is the reason why all the nations they are trying to have cordial relations, or let's say some good connections with these nations. Yes, then followed by them you have Libya, like I told you, then you have Nigeria as well. Yes. So this is how things goes on. Yes, so at one hand we might be shouting for for a rise in the fuel prices at many states, at many countries as well, at many regions as well, and on the other hand we are also dependent on these fuels, right? So so that is the irony from the society. So we all might be shouting that means the fuel prices have risen by tenfold. So let's say, I mean, surprisingly it has, I mean, it has been hiked up to a certain extent that where people won't be able to afford it. But then again, at the end of the day, since we are dependent on it, so definitely we would be purchasing oil. Maybe the quantity might be comparatively, it might be less from what we used to purchase earlier. But then again, since the dependency is at such an extent that we won't be able to live without oil and gas, and that is why a transition is required as well. Yes, even though the cost of adapting to those transitions is a bit complicated, is a bit concerning, but then again, we have to cut down the dependency on the oil and gas. Yes, so there's a high time now. Yeah, so there's a high time. And also at the same time, we also being from the oil and gas fraternity now, so we also have to look at the fact that means there are still a lot, means a good volume of oil and gas which is still stuck, to be very honest. Yes, so because of which we have the enhanced recovery mechanisms as well. Yes, so even like adapting to a newer technology which might be able to replace your conventional oil and gas vehicle, that is also a hard thing to accept. Then again, getting every drop of oil from the subsurface, even that is also a challenge that one needs to overcome. So as you can see, like I said, so those nations which are in the race of development, yes, so like cutting down United States, because United States, since it has to ensure its, this its dominance, or let's say its elegance in the entire globe, so definitely it has to compete with lot many factors. So the currently it's in a good race with China. Yes, so China again on the other hand, it's having stiff competition from India as well, from Japan as well, from lot many developing nations as well. Yes, so if you just apart from the statistics, if you just look for yourself as well, the consumption of oil and gas in the developed nations versus the developing nations versus the underdeveloped nations, yes, so you will be able to witness a stark difference in it, right? So depending upon the needs, yes, so it's similarly to the lifestyle. Yes, so depending upon achieving the goals which you have set, so your expenses will vary, your consumption will vary. Yes, so that is one thing one should keep in mind, right? So United States, China, India, so like they are leading in many aspects. Yes, because the United States, they can't give away their let's say the crown of the supremacy in the world, right? So they have to stay at the top. In for that very fact, so they have to compete with lot many challenges, lot many players as well. Yes, so so in doing so, they have to also maintain a good relation with some other nations as well, by which it will be able to keep a check on China as well, right? So a lot many things comes up. So now when we know that there's a growing tension between Russia and Ukraine, so we know that means which nations are supporting whom. But then again, as we know that Russia is having a good amount of natural gas reserves, so definitely not all nations, or let's say not all countries, can oppose directly, right? So even though if you have seen in the news, or let's say if you're following the news, right, so the tensions are still going on. Yes, Russia claiming to have occupied many means key parts of Ukraine, and at the same time Ukraine claiming to have means bringing down some key elements of the Russian defenses, or let's say, so whatever the claims might be. Yes, but then again, we have not seen other nations who have come up wholeheartedly to give a resistance, be it to Ukraine or be it to Russia. Yes, so everyone is having there's a war of words that is going on. Why? Because Russia, when it comes to Russia, so Russia has been a very consistent and a very good supply of natural gas to the EU market. Yes, that is to the European Union markets. Yes, so the moment when, let's say, Germany, or let's say France or Italy, just for the example, as you can see the picture here, so the moment when these three nations all combinedly, when they put out a strong resistance, be it in terms of some kind of diplomatic relations, or be it in some kinds of some other measures. Yes, because in between, so there were a lot many developments coming up, as that means Germany would be providing arms, so let's say technological means defensive systems to Ukraine in order to means resist the attacks of Russia. But then again, what if Russia decides to cut down the supply of natural gas to Germany? Then most of the German provinces, or most of the German states would be, then again they would be crippled. Yes, because they are having a very good dependence on the natural gas. Yes, so diplomacy is there, bureaucracy is there, which has to be maintained. Yes, apart from all the politics that is going on, so we also have to understand that how and when this situations might impact your sector. Yes, so this is definitely another reason why the fuel prices are going up. But then again, there are other reasons as well, like we have the complications of taxes and policies. Yes, so how the country means levy taxes on the commodities, so that is one thing which one should understand, right? So as you can see, so Russia, since it's applying, and then again, you just know that just for a very small part, that is the Crimea, which you know it, I guess. So because for this particular region, yes, so there is this growing tension that has been growing up, and then it has given the end result of war in a way. Yes, but then again, we let's pray that means there's no means no more another war that is coming up, which will definitely bring down the entire economic system. Yes, and this has been very much prominent. I think many of you might have invested lot many money in the stock markets. Many of you might have invested in some mutual funds or say yes. So economies have come down. Yes, the financial systems has been crashing down, and somehow they have started to get back to its tracks now. Yes, so they have not fully recovered from the losses, but then again, gradually in bits and pieces, they are trying to grow up. Yes, so you see, so because of one particular event on one particular region of this planet, so the entire system, or let's say the entire process, is being hampered, it's being affected. Yes, so these are a lot many things that you one has to understand, one has to keep in mind. Yes, but then again, if you have to discuss all these things, then definitely means if you have to debate on all these things, then time would be very much short for us, right? So I'm just trying to give you the glimpse, so that means it creates a sense of interest among you all, and by which you people can start looking into your own. Yes, and by which you would be opening doors to your own understanding, to your own knowledge. Yes, all right. Then, so apart from that, we also have certain areas through which the oil and gas trade is happening, or let's say the transportation is happening. Yes, so there are certain choke points, or let's say there are certain areas of interest, or let's say there are certain uh, regions from where the trade of oil and gas is going through, let's say passing through. Because see, if suppose China is in need of hydrocarbons, or let's say oil and gas from Saudi Arabia, so definitely it's not possible for China to establish a rail network. Yes, from China passing through Mongolia, let's say, or let's say passing through some parts of the means occupied Kashmir, or let's say Pakistan, then going all the way to Afghanistan, then again means coming across Iran as well, right? So it's not, definitely it's not possible, it's not practical as well, right? So definitely they would be relying on the tankers, or let's say the crude oil carriers. Yes, that is the vessel ships. Yes, so these ships have to go through certain points, or let's say certain areas, whereby the risks of incidents and accidents is very much prominent. So those areas we're calling it as choke points, right? And the figure which you see, so this figure is a very interesting figure now. So these figures which you see, so these are the volumes of, let's say, the million barrels of oil that are being transported every day, right? So that is why these points are very much important for us. Yes, so one of them being the Strait of Hormuz, which is in nearby, means it's near the so, I mean the Saudi Peninsula. That I mean it's near the Middle Eastern region. Yes, so if you look at the Strait of Hormuz, so this is where this Strait of Hormuz is existing. Right, so you have Saudi Arabia on one hand, you have Iran on one side, then you have Iraq on one side, then you have the other Middle Eastern regions on the other hand, right? So let's say if a war breaks out between Saudi Arabia and Iran, then definitely the ships which you see, which are colored in different shades, so definitely they will be impacted. Why? Because let's say they would be shelling from Saudi Arabia's side, they would be shelling from Iran's side. So definitely all the ships which are having oil and gas, maybe, yes, or let's say which are having crude oil, so definitely they would be hit. Yeah, so once that is being hit, then definitely the entire crude oil volume, whatever was in that ship, so that would sink down. Yes, so that will sink down, and the entirety of that oil and gas content would be spilled into the ocean. Then again, there are environmental repercussions again. Yes, so lot many things are coming up again. You see, let's say if suppose there's a growing tension between Pakistan and India, yes, and that too, let's say for a dispute in this part of this land, then definitely maybe the ships, or let's say maybe the water route which was once followed in this particular direction, now maybe the ships have to change its course, and while doing so, then what will happen is this part will become much more busy. Yes, maybe that can be one possibility. Yes, and what if there's a growing tension between Yemen and Oman, let's say. Yeah, so that will again give rise to lot many tensions, lot many incidents. Then apart from this, we also have the issue of pirates. Yes, so how the pirates are impacting the sea trades, or let's say the sea routes. So for that thing, if you need to understand it in a much more clearer way, then I would suggest that you watch the movie that is Captain Phillips, if I'm not wrong. Yes, so that's a good movie, so which is means it's based on the background of Somalia. Yeah, the Somalian pirates, how they used to capture, let's say how they used to get hold of the ships, the commercial cargo ships, and how the ransom exchange is going on. So those things can be well understood from some many other sources as well, apart from reading from books, or let's say apart from watching videos in YouTube, or let's say apart from attending lectures. So a few things you can also attend, or let's say you can also understand of the books, right? Not in the conventional way, but in some other way. So taking into example now, let's say as we were discussing tension between neighboring nations, let's say, or let's say tension between two countries which might be far away from each other. So let's say now, let's take an example between India and Pakistan. Yes, so this is Pakistan, which you see. Yeah, so this is Pakistan. I just I'll just demarcate it roughly. So I have no intentions to hurt any sentiments, so my apologies before that. And this is India, right? So this is Pakistan, this is India, and this part which you see, that is Jammu and Kashmir. So this is a very disturbed area of this particular region. So whereby what we have is we have one Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So whereby Pakistan claims the territorial claim of Kashmir, and on the other hand, India also accuses Pakistan as well as China, because China has also occupied parts of Kashmir. So we have Pakistan occupied Kashmir, we have China occupied Kashmir. So because of which, if you look on the global scenario, then you won't be finding India's map drawn to the full. Yes, so instead you'll find India's map limited to this part only. Why? Because this part would be mostly the China occupied Kashmir, and this part is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Yes, now let's say since China is having a cordial relation with Pakistan and something opposite to that of India, so maybe you see now this is a port called as the Gwadar port, right? So China, in collaboration with Pakistan, so they might establish a rail network, right? And by which they would try to, or they would attempt to establish a supremacy in the sea trade. Yes, so in order to counter that, so what India has done is India has teamed up, or let's say India has collaborated with Iran, they have collaborated with Afghanistan in order to come up with the Chabahar port. Yes, so all the producers, or let's say all the products which are supposed to be exported from Iran, which are supposed to be exported from Afghanistan, yes, so that can be done from the Chabahar port. Yes, so that means this is a counteract to the to the establishment of this Gwadar port. Yes, so this is how things are going on. Yes, so if suppose tomorrow China needs to import massive amounts of oil and gas, yes, so they are relying on Saudi Arabia, let's say they are relying on the United Arab Emirates. Yes, so maybe there might be some artificial tensions that might be developed, by which the companies, or let's say the players, might fear to come in contact with the Gwadar port in order to offload the oil and gas. Yes, so in the same way, if suppose tomorrow India is thinking of having the trade of oil and gas from Iran, so they will definitely take help of Chabahar port. So there might be certain aspects, or there might be probabilities that there might be certain tensions that might escalate because of the resistance from China and Pakistan combinedly. Yes, so these are a lot many scenarios which might give rise to tensions, which might escalate again as well, right? Now, shifting our attention towards a different aspect now. So as you can see now, so there has been I won't say a massive, but then again there has been a progressive transformation in the energy consumptions. Yes, so as I was telling you about the COP26 which concluded last year, so what we have is, like, in the COP26 it was mutually agreed that we need to phase down coal. Yes, so initially it was phase out, which was then rephrased, which was then it was rebranded to phase down. right? Because lot many countries had objections, and lot many countries made an U-turn in the last moment when they were to commit towards the causes on record, that too. Yes, so including China, including India, and other nations as well. So like the initial understanding was that all the countries, all the nations would be pledging that they would be phasing out coal. That means they would be completely eradicating out coal within a certain time frame. Yes. So if you're talking about COP26, so what time frame we are having as one is the 2030 time frame, whereby the aim is to bring down carbon emissions by 50%, and then 2050 years to achieve a completely net zero, or let's say a completely 0% emission. So this is what the target is. Yes, but then again, we all know that means most of the things are not practical. But then again, when you are having a target, when you're having certain metrics, so definitely that can be achieved. If not fully, then at least close to that particular target can be achieved. Yes, because we are talking about the global temperature now. Yes, so what we see is that because of the rise in temperatures, so what's happening is there are a lot many environmental repercussions that are happening in the poles. Yes, Antarctica has started losing its ice sheets. Yes, many arctic ecosystems has been devastated. Yes, we can see the plight of the polar bears who are losing their homes, who are losing their habitats. Then again, we can see changes in the climatic conditions, in the climatic systems as well, right? So this many things are happening because all the countries are in race to achieve, extensive industrialization, and because of which what happened was that there were massive emissions that had affected the ecosystem, or let's say the atmosphere of this earth, right? So because of which there are repercussions. So what we have is we have carbon emissions, we have the greenhouse gas emissions. So these greenhouse gas emissions has been classified under scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. Yes, so now the concept has come up is that we'll be having a concept of carbon pricing. Yes, so that means a country, or let's say a particular sector or a particular industry, depending upon the emissions it is contributing, so they would be having certain charges against it, so they have to pay for it. Yes, so in order to bring down those carbon emissions, so these are certain litigations and regulations that are going to be implemented in the days to come, right? But then again, for all countries it is not means it's not feasible for them, to uh, yes, to accept those goals. So there has been a lot many changes in many countries, including India. So India, what they have said is by 2050 they would be able to bring down 50% of the emissions. Yes, and then by 2070 only they will be able to achieve the net neutrality, that is the carbon zero emissions. Yes, so then again, now as you can see now here, so while few nations are pledging, that means they would be able to do so by 2050, or let's say by 2030 and 50. On the other hand, we have other nations which are pledging that they will require much more time. Yes, so definitely, so that calls for certain exceptions as well. Why? Because if you're talking about the United States, if you're talking about the United Kingdom, or let's say some other developed nations, so they have used their share of resources, they have contributed towards the destruction of the environment back in the days. Yes, so now these nations, now what they're doing is, so that is where the hypocrisy again lies, right? So US and let's say the other developed nations, now they are imposing this kind of regulations and lot many restrictions to the developing nations. So in a way, I have achieved success, now I'm not allowing others to have the taste of success, right? So that is in a way the situation that can be perceived as. Yes, but then again, when the entire group comes up as a one, so I won't be in control, I won't be able to dictate the terms. Yes, so definitely there has to be certain compromises, definitely there will be scope of dialogues by which finally a meaningful conclusion can come up. So this is what has happened now, right? So because of this, as you can see now, the trend of the use of coal, so it has started declining. Yes, so you see that many of the nations, since they have pledged their commitment to phase down coal instead of phasing out now, but then again, both of them will lead to the common outcome, that is completely eradicating coal in the longer run. So as you can see that it has been predicted that the use of coal will be very much minimal. very much minimal, as you can see, as compared as compared to some 100 years back, or let's say some 50 years back. Yes. At the same time, when you're talking about oil and gas, as you can see now, even the use of crude oil will be also brought down. Yes. So altogether, this hydrocarbon sources, what they are doing is they are contributing towards the emissions. Yes. So as you can see now here, so there are certain scenarios that are being assessed. So like we are having simulations that are which are giving us certain end results, which are giving us certain indications that what would be the outcomes or what would be the end cases. So as you can see that here we have three cases. One would be the rapid decrease in the use of fossil fuels, which is definitely, that is not at all possible, that is not at all achievable. Yes, but then again, means this is just a simulated outcome. This is just a scenario where you'll be able to understand. Yes, but then again, we have to rapidly bring down the use of fossil fuels, by which the targets of 2050, or let's say the targets of 2030 or 2070 will be achieved. So that is why many countries, or let's say many governments, what they have come up with is they have come up with lot many incentive schemes as well. Let's say financial incentives are provided to the people if in case they think of opting, they think of purchasing electric vehicles as well. Yes, let's say a certain reduction in the price of the entire vehicle, or let's say the registration taxes are free. Yes, so a lot many things are come up, and these are strategies by which, because the government can't force anyone, because it's politics at the end. Yes, so we can't uh, means we have to satisfy each and every part of the public. Yes, so once they are unhappy or once they are disappointed, then definitely there will be a shift in the political regime. Yes, so that's why there are certain there are certain strategies by which things are being planned to change. Yes, so there are still debates that are going on between renewable and non-renewable energies. Yes, so whether renewable energy would be able to overcome renewable non-renewable energies. Yes, so definitely, maybe if suppose there are cheaper technologies that are being developed, then definitely everyone would be happy to take the services of renewable energies, because right now the cost of renewable energy setup is too high, because of which people refrain from adopting that. Yes, and then what happens is they end up going with the non-renewable sources. Right? We've already discussed about coal. Yes, so after coal is phased out, then comes the crude oil. Yes, but then again, it's a long way to go. Then again, we would definitely, we can look out for other R&D approaches by which maybe the emissions can be brought down, by which maybe we would be able to develop much more cleaner fuels as well. Because nowadays what we have is we have blending mechanisms, we have blending processes by which we have additives, we have mixtures of gasoline fuels along with ethanol, by which the emission is controlled, by which the engine quality is maintained, even the fuel quality is maintained in terms of emitting harmful substances out into the atmosphere, out into the air. Right, so lot many processes and lot many options have come up, but then again, in order to make it commercialized, in order to extend it to a wider scale, so that requires certain time. Right, so that means there is a coexistence of renewable as well as non-renewable energy, because it won't be possible to have a heavy truck, or let's say it won't be possible, because as you can see, that means still now aeroplanes. Yes, so aeroplanes are still running on the turbine engines, which are being fueled by the aviation turbine fuels. Yes, so still there are experimental runs, so we have the solar flights, so which are on the experimental runs, but then again, when it comes to the commercial aircrafts or the flights, things still are in the nascent stages. Right, so crude oil and natural gas will stay. Yes, but for that means we have to be responsible enough, we have to understand how the different departments are working, let's say how efficiently we would be able to achieve the outcomes. So for any oil and gas aspirant, or let's say for any oil and gas individual, so definitely we all have the big companies, or we all have the big aspirations. right? So in order to achieve these goals, or let's say in order to land a job in your dream companies, definitely you have to understand that what would be the role of the petroleum engineers. So when it comes to the role of the petroleum engineer, so be it the drilling engineer, be it the production engineer, be it the reservoir engineer, be it the logging engineer, be it the well test operator, anyone. So he or she has to understand what their specific role is or what they're dealing with. Yes. So we are dealing with some microscopic environments. Why microscopic? Because we are dealing with some poor scale, or let's say poor level uh, accumulations of oil and gas, which are buried deep into the subsurface, which needs to be extracted, which needs to be, made a conduit from the surface with the subsurface. And from there, depending upon the pressure differential, what we do is we are trying to pump out, we are trying to get it all the way to the surface. Yes, so that is what the petroleum engineers are supposed to do. That is what the objectives are on a rough scale. Yes. So what we'll be doing is, as a petroleum engineer, maybe you will be definitely contributing in such a way, so that might be increasing the reservoir potential, that or the field's potential. Yes. You would be working in such a way, you would be contributing, or you'd be attending to your duties in such a way that the existing wells, be it an oil well, be it a gas well, so they would be having better recoveries as compared to the earlier stage, or let's say to the earlier periods. Yes, because at many times what happens is the wells which are being drilled, so they need to be shut down, or they need to be closed, they need to be abandoned. Yes. So we need as many wells which are being operating or which are producing, because more would be the production, better would be the recovery at the surface, and better the recovery, more would be the sales of those hydrocarbons. But then again, with production the pressure depletes, so one has to also keep in mind of the pressure decrease as well. Yes, because pressure depletion, what it will lead to is, it will lead to the degradation or the decrease in the production of the oil and gas. Yes. So finally what we do is we are trying to ensure, we are trying to achieve one asset, or we are trying to achieve one oil field in such a way that it is giving us maximum production, or let's say the best production, the best recovery for a longer period of time. So that is what we are aiming for, that is what you're looking for. So the production should be high, and also the time should be for as long as possible. Then another component would be pressure depletion. They should be also kept in check, right? So when you're talking about the different stages now in the oil and gas industry, so it all starts with the exploration phase, whereby we start looking out for accumulations, whereby we start undergoing or conducting surveys through which we identify structures, we identify sources which potentially might be having the accumulations of oil and gas. Right. So once the structures are established, once we are able to get hold of the situation in the subsurface, and what we do is we start making a connection, we start drilling the wells. Yes, so by making the connection with the subsurface to the surface, and what happens is we start producing those fluids. So the fluids will be a multi-phase fluid, so it would be oil, water along with gas, so which needs to be separated into individual streams. Yes. Then in the meantime what we do is we also understand, we also try to understand, we try to study that for how long, all that, what is the extension of the oil and gas field. Yes, towards which direction they feel is existing. Yes, what would be the reservoir boundaries, or let's say what would be the field boundaries. Yes, so even those things are studied as well. Right. Then we enter into the production phase, whereby we have the primary, secondary, and the tertiary production phases. And then towards the later stage, that means towards the tertiary production stages, then what happens is the oil wells, no matter how hard we try to revive them, then what happens is they won't be able to give us the desired amount of oil, or let's say the desired flow rate. And finally what we do is we shut the oil, or we shut the well, or let's say, so that is the abandonment phase. Now right from the exploration all the way till abandonment, so we have lot many roles, we have lot many functions and responsibilities that needs to be performed. So all this would be discussed in detail, so as we progress in the coming days of these sessions. Right. When it comes to the domains of the oil and gas, so I think I have already discussed about the upstream sector, or let's say the exploration and the production sector, that is the ENP sector. So apart from the upstream sector, what we have is we have the midstream and the downstream sector. So at times, the midstream sector is, they are synonymously, or let's say they're grouped together with the downstream industry also. Yes, but when you're talking about the midstream, so the midstream sector deals with the storage of the hydrocarbons. Then what you have is the transportation of the hydrocarbons. Now this transportation can be through pipelines, it can be through road transports, it can be through rails as well, it can be through some crude oil carriers. Yes, after which those transported crude oil would be fed into the refinery terminals, and from there you have the downstream processes, that is the refining, and then at a later stage you'd be having the marketing of those refined products. Right, so the different grades of petroleum products, be it your gasoline, be it your diesel, be it the lubricants, greases, or any other product which has its origin from the crude oil. So those would have those products has to be marketed, those has to be distributed into the consumer markets. Yes, so that is the entire oil and gas industry that we can see. Yes, but then again, lot many times what happens is the discussions, or let's say the understanding of the oil and gas industry stays limited only to this part. Yes, that is the upstream sector. Or let's say at times you also see that means it is highly regarded, that means the entire oil and gas industry is majorly dominated by the refining sector, whereby the upstream activities, they are just a supplementary to the downstream sector. But no, each and every sector, that is be it upstream or be it the midstream or the downstream, they are equally responsible for the success of this industry. And without the service, or let's say without the contribution uh, of each of the sectors, then none of the sector would be able to survive well, none of the sector would be able to go well into the market. Because if suppose the upstream sector is not able to provide, or let's say if they are not able to produce a good amount of oil, then definitely the midstream sector would be transporting whatever oil is being produced. But then again, when it comes to refining, the refining capacity, or let's say the refining volume of this crude oil would be less. When the volume of crude oil is less, then definitely for a distribution phase, there would be lesser number, or let's say there will be lesser volumes of products that would be out in the market. Yes, so then again, so there would be a problem in it. Yes, so the market demands has to be also satisfied. Yes. So these are few of the Indian companies which are there in this slide. So accordingly, if suppose you're from a different part of this world who have joined us, yes, despite of the time differences, so please make sure that you are able to find out companies which are in the upstream sector, which are dedicatedly in the midstream sector, which are dedicatedly in the downstream sector, or let's say there can be companies as well which are having the involvement maybe both in upstream and downstream sector, maybe in upstream and midstream sector, or let's say in all the three streams of the oil and gas industry. Yes, so as you can see that you have a few companies which are having the upstream businesses, and along with it the midstream businesses also. Right, so then again you have companies who are having midstream as well as downstream businesses as well. Right, so just for the sake of curiosity, so you can look out for companies which are operating in your nations, in your nearby, in your places or in your countries, so by which you'd be able to understand, and then as later as the discussion goes ahead, then maybe you'd be able to explore your career opportunities, or let's say your learning opportunities in your coming days. Right, so talking about the let me just check how many slides are there, because I have to also take care of the time as well. So just hold on. So it's 35 slides. Okay, so Nikhil, do I need to continue, or like do you have limitations of time? So when you're talking about the upstream sectors now, so even the upstream sector is having a few operations, or let's say a few activities, starting with the exploration activities, whereby we try to identify the structures or identify the sources whereby there might be some possible accumulations of hydrocarbons. So in the exploration activities, we don't look for fluids, or we don't look for the presence of oil and gas or water, but rather what we do is we try to understand what the subsurface is like, or what structures are located, or what structures are present in the subsurface. So based upon those structures, and what happens is one can at least make some deductions, one can at least make some understandings. That means based upon the existence of a particular structure, there possibly might be accumulations of oil and gas. Yes, because in geology what we have is we have the anticline and the syncline structures. Yes, so mostly in these anticline structures there possibly might be accumulations of hydrocarbons, depending upon means whether the fluids are present or not, right? So once this anticline or syncline structures are identified, let's say just for the example now, so we can then look ahead, we can look further ahead for other exploration methodologies, by which we can then decide that where the well needs to be drilled. Yes, so once the well is drilled, it has to ensure that there will definitely be production of oil and gas, right? So the picture here, what you see is a seismic exploration activity that is taking place in the offshore, however. Yes, but then again, be it offshore, be it in the onshore, its role or its objective is to identify the structures that are underlying in the subsurface, right? Now, the seismic activities, it's working on the principle of reflection and refraction, whereby sound waves, or let's say the incident waves, are traveling to different layers, to different mediums, and then it is getting reflected. So depending upon the travel time, then what happens is we are able to get a hold of the subsurface environment, by which later on, like I said, the subsequent understanding and study of the field and the blocks would then give rise to whether we need to drill the well or not. Right? Then comes the geologists. Yes, so geologists, what they do is they are working, or let's say they are closely they are monitoring, and they are looking into the rock faces or the rock samples. Yes, by which we will be able to understand that the particular section or the particular area wheresoever we are having the exploration activities, whether those rocks are sedimentary rocks, let's say, whether those rocks are petroliferous rocks. Yes, or whether there are any instances or chances that whether there would be any kind of oil or gas that would be present, or let's say that sedimentary layer would be an oil bearing layer. Yes, so they would be looking at fossils, they would be looking at indications or imprints. Yes, by which they would be able to decipher a few of the things, and later on what will happen is those informations will help us to understand that what is the subsurface setup that is existing below. Yes, because it is not possible for us to go down and then look for ourselves. Yes, because as we go down, then what happens is the temperature increases, and along with it even the pressure, right? Then comes the drilling operations, whereby we start drilling a well. So well drilling, maybe you might have seen, not in, if not in case of the oil and gas activities, then at least in case of the bore wells. So in bore wells, what happens is we are drilling a well. Yes, by which we try to look for the presence of water in the water table, right? And after which what happens is we connect a motor, by which the motor will be pumping up the water all the way to the surface. In the same way, what we do is we are drilling the well, and this drill bit, or let's say this drill string, is going across various sedimentary layers, or let's say various underlying layers. And finally what happens is it hits the target, and once it hits the target, then what we do is we prepare the well in such a way that it starts producing, or let's say it gives us the desired production, or let's say the desired fluids at the surface, right? But then again, keep in mind that with all the activities which we have discussed so far, there is a great level of risks that is involved, and that is the reason why the concepts, or let's say the health, safety and environment practices are very much necessary and important for the oil and gas industry. Because occupational health, or let's say occupational health hazards, they are very much common in the oil and gas industry. And if suppose you are not able to realize the intensity of the danger we are talking here, or let's say I'm discussing here, then definitely one can look for the movie that is the Deepwater Horizon. Yes, so then at least you'll have a feel, although it is a movie, but then again it's based on a real life incidents, so you will understand what is the level of risk and threats that we're talking here, right? Then comes the drilling operations. So this drilling operation, now we what we are having is we are having lot many teams that are helping us to achieve these operations. All right, so we have the drilling operations group, then we have the drilling engineering group. Yes, so the planning department is there, or let's say the engineering department is there, who will be looking into the scheme of things, or let's say the plans. And then what you have is you have the operations team who will be looking into the drilling activities, right? Then what we have is we would be having the formation evaluation team or the well logging team, who will be understanding or who will be studying the each and every subsurface layers that one have come across. Yes, based upon the cuttings that are coming out. Yes, and then what will happen is they will try to decipher the final conclusion, that whether in a particular depth, or let's say whether in a particular interval, uh, will there be any oil and gas, or let's say will there be any fluid presence. Yes, so this process, what happens is the final, or let's say the resultant of this well logging operations, what it does is it gives us a log. Yes, or let's say it gives us a chart from where one can identify, one can look out for potential locations in the subsurface, whereby on perforating, or let's say whereby on making a conduit between the subsurface and the wellbore, we might be getting, or we might be expecting flow of fluids towards the wellbore. And once the fluids are are coming towards the wellbore, then definitely, because based upon the pressure differential, it will be moving all the way up to the surface. Then of this is what the upstream sector is involved. So apart from that, what you have is you have the production engineering teams, or let's say the production engineering principals. So they are involved in maintaining and ensuring that production goes on in the field. Yes, and that too for a longer period of time, maintaining the quality of production. That means there should not be more amount of water in instead of oil. Yes, so rather it should be other way around. Yes, so all these things. So apart from the recovery, then again the surface separation facilities are also looked by the production engineering team, by which before before putting it for transportation, what we do is we are separating the multi-phase fluid into its individual constituents, right? Then we have the managers, or let's say we have the strategy specialists, that are the reservoir engineers. So what they will do is they will look into the various data that has been coming up from the drilling operations, or let's say from the geophysical explorations, or let's say from the well logging operations, and they will be incorporating all those data sets, and they will be building up a reservoir model, as you can see here. Yes, and based upon this model, then what will happen is they will be having a scenario. They will be, at least they will be able to replicate what the subsurface looks like, and based on that, then what will happen is they can decide where and when one can drill a well, or let's say where, if suppose a well is being drilled, if whether that well would be successful or not, or let's say in the due course of time, what would be the course of production, or what would be the scenario flow production scenarios. Yes.